Hello, my name is Roisin Dube, and I am here with Family Friendly Fantasy with another book video. I'm doing a author spotlight today on Margaret Rogerson. So, I've always loved to read, but a couple years ago, I decided I wanted to really get back into reading. Honestly, because I found BookTube, specifically Elliot Brooks, Daniel Green, and Murphy Napier were my three big inspirations. And I learned a lot about what's been going on in the world of fantasy, and started to kind of read through some of the books that they had on their recommendation list. And really, I think read a lot of Brandon Sanderson last year. But I also, in the process, heard about a author who was from my local town. She actually graduated from my nephew's high school, and she was getting ready to publish a new book. So I was really interested because she was local. And turns out that she's actually gotten relatively popular, but I hadn't heard of her at the time. So I picked up her two books that were currently, or her first one had been out for a couple years, and then the second one had just come out. So that's why I decided to pick them up, because the new one had just come out recently. So I read through the first one. It was good. Read through the second one. I thought it was better. And then actually real recently picked up her third and most recent one and just fell in love. So I just kind of wanted to do a little breakdown of her and her early career, and how she's been kind of one of the inspirations that's gotten me back into reading. And it's just been exciting because, again, she's local, but also she's new, and it's kind of interesting to watch her, writing skills progress. Her books have gotten better, I think, every time. So here we go, Margaret Rogerson. So she started out with a book called An Enchantment of Ravens, which you can see here. I actually, like I said, was just getting back into fantasy, so I really didn't know a lot about the Fae. So to me, it was actually quite novel, but I guess now the Fae thing is kind of a bit, it's been around, it's been done. But I did like her take on it, specifically that she would paint the Fae, and that was kind of a magic power of hers almost. But that also is what kind of gets her in trouble. So she's just a normal human in a world with Fae. They can't craft, so they can't do anything. Like, they can't sew, they can't bake. And so they love humans because they love their crafted goods. They crave them. So they come to her because she's known as, a really exceptional painter. And they want their portraits painted because, of course, they're arrogant. So anyway, at one point, she develops this really good reputation, and she ends up meeting someone pretty high profile named Rook, who is the head of the Autumn Court, the High Fae. And she actually sees emotion in his eyes, which isn't supposed to be there. Fae aren't really supposed to have these emotions, and she paints it. And that causes untold amounts of trouble for her and for Rook, and he ends up having to take her to his world for trial. And then, of course, lots of adventure and danger and romance ensue. And it's a pretty quick read. Very YA, I would even say younger YA, very family appropriate for that age group, but very quick read, not super dense, and really pretty short. It's a thinner book, so really fast read. Again, I think it's fair to say it was a first book. I think that she definitely, I think this was a great first book, but I think you can tell it was a first book. So very quick read, loved it. If you've read a lot of Fae books, I don't know that it stands out tremendously other than some of the twists on the trope, but it was enjoyable. I really liked it. Her next book, though, I really, really liked. And maybe that's just because I like books, but it's called Sorcery of Thorns. And this is about a girl who grows up in a library. So, of course, most of us who are into books are going to love that. And she's surrounded by grimoires, not traditional books. And these grimoires are, they can be kind of spooky and creepy, but they also can be very comical. But they're kind of alive in the sense that they have a sentience about them, and they can kind of whisper and tempt you to release them. And some are very, very diabolical and need to be locked away under, vault and key. And some of them are just kind of shelved and snicker at you when you walk by. So she was raised there and wants to aspire to become a warden, which is like the high level of protector who protects these grimoires from the outside world, because they're tools of magic and they're important, but they're also important to be kept safe and away from the world. But she's also there to protect the world from them, because if the grimoires are released, they can become actual creatures and beasts and harm people. So they're dangerous. So that's what she aspires to become. And, there's some typical school work drama kind of things. But she's having a pretty decent life there. And then there is sabotage. And one of the grimoires becomes a gruesome beast and causes lots of chaos, and she gets blamed for it. So she ends up having to go into the big city to be tried. In the process, she meets a sorcerer who the wardens and the grimoire keepers, they believe sorcerers are kind of bad guys because they use magic in ways that they don't necessarily approve of. So it's kind of one of those things where the wardens and the sorcerers are kind of on opposite sides of the world of magic. So she is not real fond of sorcerers and has always been told that they're evil and dangerous. So she meets a sorcerer who ends up helping her out while she's in the city, and it causes her to really rethink her really dug in beliefs about magic, the world around her, sorcerers, the grimoires, and also learn some things about herself in the process. Typical YA, typical kind of romance, although I thought it was better done than some. But it's not the story that you read all the time. The relationship between the two of them was, I thought, a little bit more unique, and just the whole concept of these grimoires and the way that the magic worked in this world, I found it very entrancing, and it kept me on the edge of my seat the whole time. Again, it's a little longer than the first one, but it's so fast-paced. I was never bored, got through it really, really, really fast. But totally different vibe than the first one, and I was surprised by that because it was more mature, the writing style was more developed, but even the story itself, you wouldn't have necessarily even known it was the same author if someone didn't tell you. It didn't have a throughput of, well, she's a cutesy, whimsical writer, or she's a whatever. It really was just a whole different story, and I really appreciated that Margaret was able to do a whole different story without, being pigeonholed into one style. And that leads us to her most recent book, Vespertine. I actually got a special edition of it, which is slightly teal. You really can't tell. But it is a signed copy, which I was pretty proud of because I, just getting into BookTube, haven't really had too many opportunities to get special editions or anything. So I was pretty proud of this one, especially considering she's an author that has been kind of important to my research into reading. So I was happy to get that version. So Vespertine, I think, is even another step forward in her writing. I really could tell that she was coming into her own in her use of words and her pacing. It just felt more grown up. It felt less like, hey, I've had this story in my mind since I was a teenager, I'm going to put it down, to a really well-developed novel. And also something I've not read before. Completely unique, not like the other two again. So mad props to her for 3 completely unique stories. I find that fascinating. Again, not to repeat myself, but so many authors, the stories are all individual and exciting, but there's a feel, like you pick it up, you know who it is. And maybe she's still coming into her voice, but I also really appreciate that each one of these books has been so different. So in Vespertine, we meet a protagonist named Artemisia. And she is a Grey Sister, which is someone training to be a nun, but not like a normal nun. So this is a world post kind of apocalypse, but not, in that way. It's almost more medieval in setting. And these nuns are charged with kind of keeping these spirits at bay that are wandering the world. basically the dead of of previous wars, and actually most dead now, if they're not treated with certain rites by these sisters right away, they become spirits, and most of them are malevolent. There are a few, like the spirits of children, who just wander around and do not harm people, but most of these spirits are malevolent. So what happens is when someone dies, now they're brought to the sisterhood where they can be cleansed, and then their spirits can be sent off to peaceful afterlife so that they don't wander the earth and cause trouble. And that has been working for a while. Well, towards the beginning of the book, something changes, and there is just armies of spirits attacking the covenant where she is living and training to be a full-fledged nun. And it's not just there, it turns out the whole world is basically under attack by spirits, and it's kind of reminiscent of what you knew had happened before but wasn't happening at the moment. So it's almost like, this is, we thought we were past this and it's coming back. So she turns out to be a little bit more naturally powerful than some of the other sisters, and when they're being attacked, she uses a spirit, almost like a possession, or I don't know how else to explain it. But anyway, she imbues herself with his power and personality in order to have the power to get rid of all the other evil spirits that are attacking her covenant. But then he's kind of inside of her. And it's a bit like a story with a familiar friend, like, because this spirit is always there now in her and talking to her and making sarcastic comments. He's hysterical. I love their relationship. This book doesn't have a traditional romance, but it has this relationship, and it's amazing. If you like books where they have, a companion animal or something, and you like that person to be a little bit snarky, this book is for you. It's just it's great. Their relationship is great. But anyway, so then she's basically now out in the world. She's kind of torn. She's trying to help everybody, but also she's kind of possessed with the spirit, which is a really bad thing. And if they find that out, they will try to kill her, because they don't believe she can control the spirit. They believe that it's going to control her. So the story basically is her attempt to try to figure out what's going on, why these spirits are back out in action, how to save the world in essence, but also keep herself hidden, keep herself secret. And, she's also a really shy person by nature because she had a very, very traumatic backstory. So it's kind of it's really inspiring story of someone who doesn't have a lot of confidence in themselves and is very shy and keeps to herself, but been thrust into the position of being really the only one powerful enough to save the world, so to speak, and how she comes to terms with that. Really great story. Again, different. The world, she goes into detail about all the different types of spirits. There's lots of action, lots of drama, intrigue, politics, just everything you could really want. But again, pretty fast pace. I read it, ate it up really quick, and I would recommend all three of these. I kind of recommend reading them in order just because I think it's exciting to see her progress as an author. But if one of these really, really interests you more than the other, and then of course they're not connected in any way, so you can read them out of order. But I really personally enjoyed reading them in order and seeing the progression of her writing style, the progression of her ideas from more typical tropes to really immersive, unusual worlds. And I do believe Vespertine is at least going to be a duology, if not a trilogy. So really super excited to see where that goes. And then I also hope she branches out into other stories too, like she has been. So again, my name is Roisin Duve with Family Friendly Fantasy. And I just wanted to come today and talk to you about Margaret Rogerson. I've been very impressed with her so far. Can't wait to see what else she comes out with. And I will see you with another book soon. Also, I do stream video games as well on Twitch under Family Friendly Fantasy. It's a safe place for anybody to watch. So if you like to watch video games, but you want to make sure there's no inappropriate comments or language, I stream mostly family-friendly games, but even if I did stream something a little bit more grown-up, it would definitely be a chat and a experience that would be family-friendly that you could have on with your kiddos in the room. So have a great day, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.